This year is chock full of screams, ghouls, everything that makes skin crawl.
Hypnotized and dying.
Last year's mazes were so good, and this year's is even better.
The folktales are real. The myth is real. 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐚𝐥 night is real.
Scary Farm is always going to be at the forefront of storytelling and bringing people what they want.
Is this it? Are we on? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dark Discussions. I'm Jeff Tucker. I've worked here at Knott's Scary Farm my entire life. All right. And we're going to bring out a great panel here. We're going to go behind the scenes of Knott's Scary Farm. So let's welcome our panelists before we get too far along here. Here they are. Come on out, guys. Here they are. Gus Kruger, Daniel Miller, Winston Limauge, and Jeff Shadic. And each one of these guys is responsible for their own specific brand of terror here at Knott's Scary Farm. So we're going to meet them, find out what they do and how they do that voodoo that they do, right? All right, so here is Gus Kruger, designer extraordinaire. And Gus worked on a brand new maze this year. You want to talk about 8fingers9?
Yes, I do. Has anybody already been to the park this year for Scary Farm? All right, a very small percentage. Good. So we got a bunch of people that don't know what's going on. Perfect.
So hey, you're going to spoil it for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. So what I'm going to do is tell you everything that happens so that when you're here tonight, the maze just isn't quite as exciting for you. But hey, welcome to the panel. Yeah, my name's Gus Kruger. I'm one of the maze designers here at Knott's. We have 2 new mazes this year, and 8fingers9, the Boogeyman, is one of them. So this is the outside of the maze. What I wanted to do with this maze is I wanted to create sort of our own. I wanted to do a boogeyman character, and I wanted to do it for a long time, but I wanted to create something that's unique to the park. So when I was trying to come up with what this maze was, I knew I wanted to set it in like colonial times and have it feel like a storybook come to life. But so much of this story came out of writing a single poem, which may sound weird for a Scary Farm maze, but the vibe of this maze came out of this poem. I'm going to read you this poem. Take heed of the tale of old 8fingers9. Watch well while you sleep, or on your fingers he'll dine. If alarm him you do when he comes for a bite, he'll spare you your digits and quickly take flight. But if you allow him the smallest of taste, you'll enter a slumber and he'll lay you to waste. 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 fingers, 4. Don't even bother with locking the door. 5 fingers gone, and next will come 6. Your flesh he devours, your end won't be quick. 7 fingers now, then 8fingers9. The feast's in full swing, the blood flows like wine. So as you can see, it's a real feel-good story. Thank you. I got 1 clap. I love it. Thank you. So you just compliment the 1 clap, and they all feel obliged to do it. Just take note. But yeah, so for this we wanted to, obviously, for those of you who've been to Scary Farm before, we have 10 mazes, and we want to try to get such a great wide swath of ideas and vibes. And for this one, we didn't really have something that sort of made you feel like you were traveling into a storybook, and that's what this maze does. Over the next few slides, I'm going to show you some scenes from the maze just to show off sort of how our props crew brought the storyboards that we generated into reality. And it sort of takes you through the story of the maze. But first, we can go over a couple highlights. So for the maze highlights of this maze, I got to turn around and read this thing. You step inside, like I said, we wanted you to travel inside a living fairy tale in a colonial township that is under siege by a monster. So this monster, he's a nature spirit, and he has been brought to life at the start of this maze. And he preys on the town when they're asleep, and his bite brings on sleep paralysis. So he slowly devours people while they sleep and they're fully aware of what's happening. Again, welcome to Scary Farm. The plot of the maze is told through prose because so much of this idea of the maze came out through poetry. The voiceover of maze actually propels the story forward through prose, each room as you travel through it. And then at the beginning of the maze, you actually see the creation of this monster where there's this kindly nature spirit that brings forth this energy to bring this poor child back to life that was abandoned in the woods, but he's so angry from the amount of time that he spent in the woods that he turns into the vengeful 8-Fingers 9 monster. Now here at Knott's, we do all of this stuff in-house, right? So I generated this, we came up with this storyboard that shows the transformation tree. And like I said, this is the beginning of the maze. This fairy spirit has brought this child to life that has been abandoned. And you can see down in the lower corner, our props team did all of this work to bring that scene to life. I can't stress enough, this maze is just such a great testament to the workforce, the crews that we have here at Knott's, because pretty much everything you see when you go through it, it's all created by our in-house artisans, and the few elements that are purchased elements have been heavily modified. So when you go through a Knott's maze, you really do see the work of a huge team, huge but not that huge, but it's all an in-house team that is creating all of this by themselves for us. This is, as you go through the town, you see lots of things that have happened, the aftermath of this monster preying on the town. This shop actually is named in honor of my fellow designer here, Daniel Miller. And you could see basically what I came up with as far as the storyboard, how close they hewed it to reality. So that's, again, it's a testament to our teams here. Again, this is showing off how the monster preys on people. The shopkeep fell asleep and it didn't work out well for him. Now the next slide, this is the route. Now, as I mentioned before, this monster is a nature spirit and he travels through nature to find his enemies. So as far as the storytelling aspect, I didn't want it to just be one trip through a town. I wanted to go a little bit supernatural because of this monster is that. So we travel through the route, which is a way that he sort of goes through the arteries of nature. So as this monster can just emerge out of walls. He can see you through trees, woods, walls. And then this is how he travels. This is what his area looks like. So I sort of challenged the teams, hey, what is that? How do you make that reality? And again, you see in the lower corner, they really nailed that look. And then we, twist and turn through this maze, but we're going to take a look now at, this is the big finale of the maze where you come face to face with the monster in the woods, and as guests, you actually enter into his mouth and get eaten. So, yeah, I guess, like, hey, I dig that. Yeah, it's all feel-good stuff. But really, like, for me, any Scary Farm maze that ends with you feeling good about your chances of survival, we didn't really do our job as entertainers. We don't come here for happy endings. But yeah, so that is a little bit I wanted to share with you guys. Being in the industry, I want to share you how great our teams are here to go storyboard to reality. And then the next thing, I just want to show you a bit of our design. We actually, Daniel and I, when we're creating these things, we do draft everything architecturally in Vectorworks in 3D. So if you're thinking about how you can sort of go with scenic design, set design, or any of that, my gosh, you've got to learn 3D software and get into that. So that is the entire maze drafted out in 3D and Vectorworks. And that is what I wanted to share with you guys about 8-Fingers 9.
Gus also uses that last image. I've caught him playing Sims with it, which I think is really exciting. So how long, Gus, is the idea of 8-Fingers 9 to opening for guests?
Well, this one's kind of fun. Whoa, I came in hot there, guys. Sorry. This maze, actually, I got the initial idea for it back in 2018. So this maze was pitched way back when I pitched my Dark Entities maze, but it's sort of been kicking around in the back of my head for this whole time. We usually begin plotting our next season right now. So while we're actively working Scary Farm, we are working on our next year's concepts. Daniel and I, Winston, we've already put forth ideas to be considered for next year. So once there's a decision made, we generally have about 3 months of really heavy duty designing to craft these things. And then even once that's done, the job's not over because there's so many things, and we art direct it all. So we kind of start working on these mazes, November, December. And we really don't stop working them on our end until opening night.
And on top of that, we also have all the other theme park stuff to do. So
every other season.
You're right. You're not just the Scary Farm guys. There's a whole year of stuff we have to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like everybody here on this stage, we work all year. Scary Farm is certainly the funnest and spookiest, but we are here providing entertainment for all seasons.
Gus Kruger, everybody. And now we move on to Daniel Miller, who has a brand new maze he'd like to talk about.
Hello, I'm Daniel Miller, entertainment design. I've been here for 26 years designing mazes. So I have around 26 original mazes, and I don't know how many altogether. Sometimes we'll do each other's mazes, so probably around 30 or 40 there. Widows. Widows, again, was conceived around a year ago, and I told the story plenty of times. I have a little dog. I walk it around my neighborhood at night, and right around now, all the spiders come out and just create these huge webs all throughout the trees, and I walk her, and I get webs in my face, and it's just so disgusting. And I just want to kind of recreate that feeling for all of our guests. So... also, I was talking to one of my friends here, 𝐒𝐤𝐬. She's the bride on Ghost Town Streets. She said one of her biggest fears was hospitals, and one of her favorite mazes of mine in the past was Asylum. And she also was particularly creeped out by convalescent homes. So the name came first. It was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Let's smash together a convalescent home and a spider maze to make it Widows. And we had the name very first moments that we discussed this. So we went about, and I quickly put it in a pitch, and I pitched it basically, I think, within a week. And voila. The backstory is that these spiders have burrowed from underground and have taken over this convalescent home and burrowed into the skins of these old women who live there. So there's only one character in the entire maze who's actually human, and a little old lady who kindly invites all the spiders to crawl all over her. All the rest are actually spiders in grandma's clothing. It actually solved one problem, which was how to get actors to be elderly or grandmotherly and be scary and active. So it was kind of an obvious, hey, why don't we make them actually spiders, but they're sort of like were-spiders. So this is the facade. I really love telling the story from the very beginning. From the moment you have your eyes on the maze, you know what's going to happen. And the story is basically these large spiders have come up. The motif is, if you can see, there's a little green patch underneath the convalescent home. That represents the spider world. And there's large spiders on top that are actually breaking apart the facade. That represents the convalescence. So there's several times within the maze that you go through, and you see below you the spider world, and above you the convalescent home. So this is actually the pitch that I drew up. I know this is controversial, but I don't mind using AI. I think it's a means to an end. So especially if we get very close to the actual original. So I really like this kind of hybrid women spider and just conceiving of it. So this is where we get into the storyboarding of each of the room, and I kind of bifurcated this maze into two parts, which was the convalescent home, and once you get further into it, you go into the underground area where the spiders are, which is, I'll get to that, but the first part is where I want to step into the action. I want to step into the fact that we are under attack by these spiders. So you're going through, and every prop, every light tells the story that is happening, supports the story of this attack that's happening in the convalescent home. I just picked the 3 or 4 scenes here, which is the lobby, the foyer with the TV room, a rec room, and this last scene is kind of like a weird seance scene. What I decided to do was do an Easter egg from a previous maze called Voodoo. And the story, and I made it the central story of the maze, which is that the vamp of the Voodoo Queen was aged out and put into this convalescent home that she hated. She hated the nurses, hated the other residents, so she wanted to seek revenge on them. So she summoned 𝐒𝐸𝐴𝐚𝐥, the goddess of spiders, to open a portal and let all of her sisters into the convalescent homes. And they have one night to mate, find a mate, and to create a batch of eggs. I also was heavily influenced by the movie, I'm not sure, I'm a big horror fan buff. I was influenced by the movie X, which has this creepy scene of this man who's paralyzed and this older woman basically seducing him. So I kind of wanted that to be a part of the maze. But this is the facade. So I want to show a little bit of the drawings that go in. So this is our facade. I based this off of the Pink Lady in Eureka, California. It's this gorgeous building, basically half the size of, or this is half the size of that. But again, telling the story, explaining the spider, or explaining the house into it. But this is the second half of the maze, which is the spider realm. And I really wanted to create a hierarchy of spiders. So the finale, which you'll see tonight, has this massive spider that dominates this room. She's 𝐒𝐸𝐴𝐚𝐥, the queen. And everyone in the second half of the maze serves her. And we have priestesses, and they all have basically like a hierarchy. There's some that are just there to lug things around and spin webs. And there's some to collect venom. And all the venom from all the spiders in all the world kind of gets funneled into this venom ring. And this becomes a hallucinogenic to give to the queen. And that's what she feeds on. So the thing is to give detailed stories to each of these characters, so the actor has something to grip on to take to the guests. So it's not just ooh, scare. Even if it's just minor in the back of their head, they know how to act. So we really like that detail, that character development. So this is basically showing overall. I love to do this. I love to take all of our paint elevations and put it throughout the ground plan to show exactly where each section should feel like. It also kind of gives us a tonal feel of what the actual maze should be. This follows basically the flow of it, and you can kind of see, oh, it's too light here, so it should darken this up. It's a great tool for design for us. So that's basically it. There's obviously a lot more. We end up with for 11 by 17 sheets, we end up with around 90 plates of drawings. And that's with also paint elevations too, to give to our team. And I can't reiterate enough what Gus said. The team is hugely important. We want to inspire them with our storyboards. We want to inspire them with our drawings to make and they want to be inspired. They want to make the greatest stuff ever. So I think they do.
Daniel Miller. And what's great about the 2 mazes we just heard about is that we sometimes, but very rarely, do movie IP-based mazes. We did Beowulf and The Grudge, and yeah, we've done those before. But the majority of the mazes we do here are completely homegrown. The ideas are from the designers. They're all organic. So We get to tell these amazing, I mean, you heard the stories they tell. Most guests are never going to know any of that as they go through. They're like, oh, it's a big spider.
And
Yeah,
that's fine.
Did you see this and this? I saw a big spider. It was great, man. And the guy ate my fingers. Like, so it's great to have all this lush detail and story because it helps sell the idea, sell the actors that are in there. Like you said, you've got to give you can't just give somebody a costume and go be scary, right? You've got to motivate them, tell them what is going on in these rooms. So these lush backstories give that. And it's such a great thing to be able to not only create like that, but then to share it with you guys, because for years, if you went to theme parks, things just happened. It's just a ride. It's just a walkthrough. You had no idea that there was somebody back there creating it, designing it, and then crafting it, and then running it, the operations. So you get a nice appreciation of all the work that goes into these things by doing these panels. And then to that end, this is Winston's first ever time on a panel. This is Winston, our lead lighting designer. And he is going to tell us the amazing work that he has done that if he does it well, you don't even notice, and that's how great it is. So there you go, Winston. You're up.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm the lead lighting designer here at the park, and I do the mazes. I worked with Gus on his maze. We had a guest designer for Widows, so I do the mazes, I do the scare zones. But the biggest project I've been working for on the last 2 years is these lanterns, which you may have seen them last year if you came through. You may be seeing them this year. I'm going to throw them in the one effect. Do you mind, Jeff? All right, so they have. We added a new effect this year, which is sort of it's a fun little game that we like to people around the park are liking to play with. So. If you throw it into the green mode here, which I see some lanterns out there. And someone got me already. Look at that. Right? So there is a mode here. When you're in green, you can run around the park and you hit the on-off switch here, and you're facing the person. And I'm probably too far away for the people in the audience there. The lantern turns green. They call it tag mode. If the thing on the right or on the left, sorry. You're right, my left, is the tag that is included with your device. It talks about that. And people are having a lot of fun just trying to get out of the park in green mode. So that's it's just a little fun thing we've added for the lanterns this year. It doesn't really, it's done through an infrared trigger. So one side of the lantern, there's a little infrared output on here, and that actually will trigger to the other lanterns. However, our primary use is if you put it into this mode here. So this is your flickering yellow mode. You'll see that in primary for the park. That will let you interact with the park. And so Jeff's going to talk about more about some of the interactions we use with some of the IR stuff. For me, I interact a lot with, I have radio transmitters throughout the park. And in a lot of mazes, we have 13 in 8 fingers, and we have like 8 or 5, something like that. And Widows, they're all over the place. There's over 100 in the park. And so we will trigger just cues. So I wrote a cue. Go ahead and trigger that light board. But it will overtake the normal effect. And you can see here, that's what's happening over here on this picture here. So this is it happening in Mind Ride. We do have it in Mind Ride in a couple locations. And this is actually a picture of last year's lantern, but they work the same way. And then here you have it's part of a show. So in fact, the 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐿 show, you can see. They have a little interaction there, and that's just us taking it over, right? Oh, here we go. So it did actually trigger. So this is an effect I just wrote by hand earlier, which is nice. We just throw it right into the light board, and I could do whatever. It's a red, green, blue intensity. It's got a range inhibitor, and there's a whole bunch of other sort of internal things, but those are sort of the basics that we use throughout the park. We do have some IR stuff inside of mazes, and in fact, there is a secret run in the park that will actually trigger the K. So good luck finding that, because I will not tell anyone where that is. But that one I love that one. That one's fun. So that's it for me.
And what does it do? The one that you can't find?
It will trigger the K. So if you run around, you try to find your little IRs.
The big one.
The big K up on top. Yep. There's a couple of effects that happen up there that I've programmed that, once you find the trigger, you have to be able to see the K. So it's somewhere in the park where you can see the K.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere.
And again, that's one of those things that people just assume just happens. Well, they have a thing that lights up.
Right.
But no, it takes a whole team to put that together and somebody to say, it has to light up here, it has to be this color here and do that here. So it's just as complicated as all the other things we do at Scary Farm.
Yeah,
Nice
absolutely.
work. All right, we're going to move on to the end here. This is Jeff Shadic, the manager of Park Decor. And Jeff does all of the amazing decorations out in the park, in addition to other things, and he's going to show you some amazing stuff.
Thank you. So last year after the 50th, I kept getting asked, what are we going to do to top the main gate from last year? And since I've developed this whole storyline, it's the death of the park, and I'm like, let's just really lean into the whole cemetery aspect and the reapers, changing up the skeletons so they're reapers. And then somewhere along the line of coming up with the concept, and then I went to the Trans World show and saw these really cool animation pieces. I'm like, lantern trigger, main gate. And then I came back and I said, Jeff, I need your help. I don't write. And he wrote a little script. So we actually have a lantern activation at the main gate this year with the assistance of Winston. Technology is not my thing, but luckily I have a gentleman on my team by the name of Mason Vidari. He is incredible at programming and doing all of that. So in our case, the lanterns will send a signal, they will trigger the activation, and then it will also send signals back to the lantern and causes the lantern to have effects like the lightning flashes and things like that. You can't see him in the video, but there is a skeleton violin player sitting up over my shoulder.
Beyond these gates lie the realms of darkness. Many who journey never return. Your lantern guides you through the darkness. Stay close to their illumination. Death is always watching.
So the way the sequence happens, the lightning flashes, it blows out all the candles, and in the darkness, the reapers come to life, and that's what's happening. And then once the candles all re-illuminate, they go back to sleep and they are waiting to be brought to life again. So this is the rendering of last year's spider activation. A lot of people missed this one last year. None of the Park Decor lantern activations were on the map last year. This year, we got them added, and it was very interesting because the second they got added, I'm just seeing tons of people hitting them. We did an upgrade to this one. It felt a little underwhelming, so we wanted to add some more animation to it. I think we have a photo coming up. So this was last year, and there's the giant spider sitting there on the right-hand side. And then the upgrade is in the video. So he's wearing a Scary Farm sweatshirt.
Nice.
And then last year, the Fiesta Village piece was just a static piece. Mason came to me and he said, hey, can we turn it into a lantern activation? I'm like, it's all on you, buddy. Go for it. Have fun. Do what you want to do. And just because I completely trust my team when it comes to this stuff, because like I said, technology and me just don't mix. I'll give you a pretty picture. I'll tell you what you want it to look like, but go for it. And then it's actually random, and there's 3 different ones, and I think we have a video of one of them.
I agree.
Short, sweet, quick to the point. There is one that's a little bit longer. There's one I think that's a little bit shorter. Interesting thing about this amazing team that I have, we've really leaned into a lot more effects in the last couple of years, things like that. Between the Fiesta Village one, the main gate, and the Forsaken Lake, I think we have made approximately in the last 2 years over 200 candles out of individual LEDs. So it's fun and we're enjoying it, and we're going to see what we can figure out to do for next year. I think I want to add a couple activations, possibly in Carnival.
Yeah. Jeff Shadic, everybody. It is interesting to think, like, in 1973, the Knott family sat around the table and said, you know, there's no business between Labor Day and the Christmas holiday. Can we come up with something? And they invented the Halloween event, unlike anything anybody had ever seen before. The first event was 3 nights, I think, 2 nights, 3 nights. Yeah, it was like $4 to get in. And how it has grown, right? Not only has it grown into this amazing, all-encompassing event that we work on year-round, like we're already working on next year, but it has inspired so many other events and so many other things. And Halloween is so big. When I try to explain to people that when I was younger, Halloween was one night. You tried to stretch it by going to pick out your costume and then begging your mother to try it on, and then Halloween, and then 5 o'clock you went out, you went trick-or-treating, and by 8 o'clock you were back in. So Halloween was 3 hours, and it was the greatest 3 hours ever. But we've managed to stretch it now into our entire lives. We spend all year thinking about Halloween and how to make it better, how to make it bigger, you know, because what all these guys do up here is they create these things, and it's easy to say, well, now they're created, go enjoy them. But every year they make them better and they plus them, and even brand new mazes, when the new mazes are brought back the next year, they add to them so that people who went through them last year are like, oh my God, I didn't see that last year. So we do try to always stay ahead of the industry and set the trends, and they do great work. They're amazing artists up here, and they have a whole team that works with them that are amazing too. So thank you all for being on the panel. Jeff Shadic, Winston Limauge, Daniel Miller, and Gus Kruger. I'm Jeff Tucker. We do have time for a few questions if you guys have questions. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Right over here, yes. Stand up and yell.
Hi, love your mazes, love your park. Have you ever considered a maze for Forsaken Lake?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. There's no real estate over there is the problem, right, guys?
Yeah, it would be great, but it's just a matter of where does it go. We used to do a maze over in that area where the smaller train is, where the Peanuts train is. But to do that maze, we had to shut down the train for months and months and months at a time, which is all well and good for Scary Farm fans, but not unfortunately, but the reality is that we have, you know, kids coming to the park all the time. So if you take away the cool train with the Peanuts overlay, that's not a thing. So
and as you look to the right, the train enters Forsaken Lake.
Yeah.
All the kids start crying.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we would love to do that, but it's just a matter of finding the where.
Yeah, it's a good question though. We were just talking about it not 2 days ago, right? Anybody else? Yes, right here.
So last year for the 50th, Not Scary Farm just set the bar high. And for each of the panelists, what do you think is in store for the next 50 years at Scary Farm?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, hopefully our park expands so we can have the event grow as well. I think as the industry changes, that's really going to dictate what we do and how we do it. I mean, this is my 31st haunt. And when I first started doing it, you were handed some rough plans, and I mean, audio in the mazes was run off of a CD or a cassette tape, and there were basically practical fixtures and black walls and go scare, and it had a rough theme. I mean, when we wanted to create a prop, we had to make it. You know, now you can go to sign online and find pretty much anything you want, from the smallest animation piece to the most expensive, biggest monster you want. But it's constantly changing, and with all the enthusiasts, it's hard to say.
I think to go off on that, I think that embracing the technology is something that I know that I'm sort of coming. I come from theater, opera, dance sort of world, not from theme parks, so I have a maybe slightly different approach to Haunt. And I feel like for me, I've put a lot of technology in the stuff that I've done. And I think for us, embracing the technology and trying to use new stuff and use something that maybe isn't haunty, right? We're not just using park hands and whatever. As far as for me, like I'm using tons of LEDs now because I can do a lot of effects. And I think the lanterns is the next step forward for that, because now it's bringing the guests even closer to the story, and because that's just going to build, right? That this is the first iteration. This is the second year. 50 years down the line, it's going to be, I don't know, something built into your skin, something ridiculous, right? So I think that's definitely the way to look forward on some of that.
Holograms and laser beams.
Yeah.
No more construction.
Plastics.
Plastics.
No artist.
Obviously, the technology is going to change. We don't know what is ahead of us. I mean, it could be holograms. It could be all the things, but I think the story needs to still kind of stick and guide everything. I don't like putting out an effect for just effect's sake. I like to tell a story with that. And I think for several years, in fact, the last 10, 15 years, we had several really big, innovative storytelling moments that we've had through Trapped or through, other kind of like AR. We had these key rooms that we did that really kind of pushed the envelope, and it's kind of fun because we're a small little group compared to like a big theme park ride. We can be that liquid and test new things out. I think the newest things in theme park might actually happen at Haunts because we are so liquid and because we can do it quick. And it's like 1 year in, 1 year out. So this is the place to see the future of theme parks.
I mean, that is a really good question. For me, I know Daniel and I, with our approach to storytelling, no matter what technology may bring to us, Knott's Scary Farm Halloween Haunt is always about, there's a beating heart of not just innovation, but we are Halloween. We are true to the spirit of Knott's, and we're always looking back at our history and building upon it and being better than we were before. But every single thing we do starts with a core idea. So technology in 50 years is going to be bananas, right? We're going to probably put on our glasses and we're going to see the maze come to life before our eyes. But all of that technology, just like Daniel said, means nothing if it's not rooted in a storytelling aspect. So all we ever do is look at these great new tools. We have the lanterns, we have video technology, we have so much more than we did even 10 years ago. But I never personally, granted, in 50 years, I'll be in the ground. I'll just be one of the people haunting this place as a ghost. But I don't ever want someone to walk into a maze and just think about how cool that technical trick they did was. First and foremost, it's about story, and it's about being true to the essence of this event. So technology is going to come and change, but Scary Farm is always going to be at the forefront of storytelling, just cohesive full park experience, and bringing people what they want.
Daniel mentioned Trap. That was one of the mazes I was heavily involved with. Year one, we made people eat bugs. We put them into morgue drawers. By year three, we were making them drink what they thought was urine, light stuff. Really, So I think the only way to go 50 years from now is we'll just murder people. We'll just bring you in and somebody will get murdered. You go, was it fun? Yeah, Jimmy got murdered. It was amazing.
But it's okay because it'll be a clone.
Yeah, we'll clone you out. It'll be great.
I mean, I think one of the cool things about here at Knott's is the fact that we're not held to all these IPs either. So we are really able to, these guys with the mazes, they start thinking of some really twisted things and take these deep dives, and sometimes they have to be reined in, I do know. But that gives us the ability to just think beyond and what can we do, and we're not just tied into this mass murderer guy.
Right. Well, if you use a movie IP, then the studio comes in and says you can do this, 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 and this, but you can't ever do this. We don't have the can't ever do this part.
Right.
We never get to that. It's always what can you do? What can it be? How scary can it be? How far can you push the envelope? So that's in 50 years, the envelope will be ripped open, right?
And we've always done that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we get spanked and things get changed real quick.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, so can you just talk about the size of the teams in general? How big is the lighting team? How big is the design team? How big is the set construction team?
The lighting team is 24 people right now, I think, park-wide. We do have some showrunner teams as well, which I'm not really including. But that's one of the larger of the teams, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they ebb and flow seasonally. We do bring on a lot of people to create Haunt, but we do have a core team. I think any of those disciplines is probably, at least our video team is smaller, and we do have show control as well. But for the most part, your main scenic teams run anywhere from, like 15 to 30. I mean, it's a decent amount of people. It's not a huge team, but...
How many designers are there?
1 lighting designer.
3 scenic designers.
How many park decor?
I'm actually pretty lucky. We have about 17 on park decor at this point. A few of my people are seasonal. They only work at night, but they pretty much work on Christmas most of the time. Christmas is kind of a year-round project for us because of the sheer volume that we have. They do work on Halloween as well. But I have...
What's the changeover time from Halloween to Christmas?
Going scary to merry?
30 seconds.
Scary to merry, how long?
Scary to merry. 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks to clean it all out and make it joyful.
All visible signs of Halloween we try to remove from the park within the first 4 days after the last night. My team comes in usually around 11 p.m. on the last night of Scary Farm, and the first task is to remove all of the scare cloth from the park. And then it goes on from there, skeletons and everything. And believe it or not, on the 4th night of Teardown,
my true love gave to me.
Yes. Christmas starts actually being installed. You'll start to see it go up in Boardwalk and in different areas of the park. So it's actually 2 different teams doing this. So
we have to be really smart about it. I mean, look at this proscenium right here. This is actually the same proscenium for a Christmas show. So we try to front load everything, make sure we can do that transition as smoothly as possible.
We had a maze here one time called Dead of Winter that Gus designed that was about all in the snow and evil monsters and people in the snow. And I walked through when they were building it and I said, Gus, we could leave this up and have a really good Christmas maze in here. And Gus said, Jeff, they're going to put blood everywhere. So we didn't get to do that. Any other questions before we wrap up right here? Yeah.
Is there any future for interactive VR experiences like 5150 to come back to Knott's ever?
The question is, VRcade 5150, very unfortunate name. Is there a chance that it comes back?
I mean, you never know.
We tried to a couple of like 3 or 4 years after that. And
I'll give you my cynical take on it. I don't think so. And that's just my dumb opinion. But I think that if you want to go do that, they do that at the mall, right? They got a little tiny storefront, but inside it's the Alien Romulus experience. It's all right here in your glasses, right? But what we do is fully interactive, immersive. You are in there. You can smell it. You can walk through the cobwebs. And as much as I love all that technology stuff, sometimes I think it's not real. Like, it's not real. It's like, did anybody buy those McDonald's Boo buckets, those Happy Meal buckets with the fake lid on top? Like, if you held it a certain way, you could kind of make out a lid, but it wasn't a lid. And I think that's so indicative of modern life. It's like, well, it's good enough. It's an image. It's good enough. It's good on Instagram. But we're not doing Instagram. We're doing fully immersive. You are there. You are part of it. We are going to murder you, right? Okay, so... Yeah, watch next year. The VR is back. That'll be my...
So yeah, the answer is maybe.
What'd you say?
I said the answer is maybe.
Maybe. Never mind. Any other questions? Yeah, there you go.
My question's kind of a two-part question. First, who do I have to thank for the giant popcorn bucket in Cinema Slasher? It's my favorite thing ever. One of the little knights. Best thing ever.
Probably I'm not sure exactly, but it's either John Cook or myself or Ted Doherty. Those were the three designers on that. But I do remember, like, at first I thought it was a little goofy, and then I was like, you know what, this is going to be fun.
What I will say is I remember when he was saying it was a little goofy, I was in the room, I'm like, you're out of your mind. That's the coolest thing you've ever thought of. Like, we don't need any other monsters. We need a popcorn bucket with a knife.
So the second part of that, and it's kind of related to that, is like, what role does Goofy play in Haunt? Because clearly, like, the world of comedy can coexist with horror. You know, there's the hanging. So, like, how does that interact with what you guys do?
I think for me, I think if you look at a lot of the designs I've done, there's like dark humor to it. So I'm always kind of laughing as I slice people's faces off. Now, Daniel has in the past, he's done a bunch of mazes that are just straight up campy stuff. And again, like there's always ebb and flows in how we do this thing. I'd love to see something like that come back, but it has to be the right idea at the right time.
I always waffle here because I love a good comedy maze. I mean, Hatchet High is just filled with jokes and ribald humor. But the whole place is Scary Farm. And I sincerely want to scare people. And if we lose that chance, if we get too goofy and lose that chance of scaring, then I think it's a lost time. And I think a lot of times when we've attempted it, it's fallen flat.
It takes a special maze to be able to do both the cornball type stuff and also be scary. And Hatchet High was one of the successes, and we don't need to talk about it.
But there's always been a certain amount of camp and oddness and things like that at Scary Farm. I mean, there always has. I mean, the show that was in here for years, you know, Elvira, there was a certain camp to it. There's Toon Territory that was just kind of completely bizarre and twisted tunes. I mean, the hanging for itself, you know, you look at that. I mean, we've got a skeleton that I don't think very many people even see or hear because of his location, but he's sitting over on the depot stage and he's talking, and he's this crazy little hick guy sitting there with his dog, and he wakes up every once in a while and says some of the most incredibly off things that you've ever heard.
Yeah, I think it has its place. Freddy Krueger's only scary in the first one, right? After that, he tells jokes. He has a power glove by the time he finished his run. So I think all of that has its place. I mean, the valve for being scared for people is they laugh. They scream and then they laugh, right? So I think it has its place. But I write comedy, at least I hope I do. So I think that I'm a little biased in that, you know?
Is there any one particular, like, character or prop or effect that you're particularly proud of, past or present? Like any small little touch that you're really proud of?
Well, in the Chilling Chambers maze, there's a poop that Daniel and I are very proud of. That has gone back for years. Do you have any others? There's a poop.
In Waxworks, there's this incredible sculpture that is like an amalgamation of all these body parts that are twisted and grotesque, and yeah, it's surprisingly visceral. And that happened. I mean, I give a lot of trust to our people. I made a maquette for it, but the person who did it took the maquette and was inspired by it, but really put himself into this. It's an incredible sculptor that just created this wonderful thing. And I trusted him, and he hit it out of the park.
I think one more thing too that sort of goes back to the last question is the last maze that just retired of mine, Dark Entities. There's two places in there where I had robots that had very different attitudes. And I just really loved it because the first robot literally insulted every single guest that walked in the maze if you listened to him. And then the second robot was in the med bay desperately trying to save a patient that was just completely gutted and gored everywhere. But he was so crazy optimistic. And I wrote all of those lines, and they were really fun because we kicked them through like a robot voice generator. So like literally it was a robot voice for a robot. And I really love those guys. It was just sort of my dual personalities. So,
let's see. Currently, I think for me, getting to create immersive displays, and I think the one that I'm the most proud of recently is the Forsaken Lake one. I really like that one. Things from the past. I think one of the mazes that I enjoyed decorating the most, and I'm going back some years, was Lair of the Vampire. That was the first maze that really actually ever had a show element too here at the park.
That's the first modern maze.
Yes.
Because up until that point, the mazes are just trash bag hallways.
No,
it's my phone.
Trash bag hallways and guys with shaker cans. And then they had an opportunity. You could tell the story, right?
Well, the opportunity is originally it was supposed to be Bram Stoker's Dracula. And then...
Based on the movie.
Based off the movie. And what happened is my understanding, because I don't know if it's 100% accurate, the production company had come back to us just literally a couple of weeks before and said, hey, we want 2 additional costumes created. We want the life-size bat, and we want the bridal gown that was completely made out of paper to be in the maze. And everybody was like, there's no way we can do that in 2 weeks. So it actually, I guess, got pulled, and then we had to pivot and turn it into something else. That's why when you went through it, you would actually see some similarities and in some of the sculptures and things in the dining room, because some of the original pieces that were on loan to us were still here. But that was the first time we ever had a show element. It was the Dracula disappear and reappear behind the bed. And I remember Amanda Mateague did that, right?
Really amazing.
It was a really cool. That was probably my favorite maze back then, and it had a really great through Gothic theme.
So you mentioned how you bring in new people sometimes to work on your projects. Do you like seek them out, and like how far are they normally like people who have worked on a theme park before, or are they kind of all over the place?
We kind of hire whoever comes up. We do. That's a good question. We do have openings every season for people to join the teams. It's just, you know, if you're savvy for lighting or props or paint or whatever, we do hire seasonally every single year. They're all posted through there. So we don't do really much of as far as go out and recruit people. We do have people who have expressed their interest to us, and then we of course just let them know when job openings are. But every year there's opportunities to join our production team. So and if you're interested in something like that, just start looking early, because you think that, hey, Halloween's just right around the corner, it's August, I'm going to try to get a job. We're literally hiring like March, April, May. So you know, just keep an eye on 𝐒𝐻𝐿.com, and that's where the jobs will be listed.
Yeah, same with the design. I know sometimes we are looking every once in a while for an assistant or something like that. As far as designers for things, they tend to pass through the realms before they end up. So you pass through as an assistant maybe before you get to design something. But they do come up. You know,
to that point, I literally started here. I started as a monster, and then I went on the construction team, and then I worked in props, and I got to design after running the props team for about 5 years. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say is like the majority of my team have worked at the park, or they were a monster, or they were a blackout or whatever, and they've expressed interest, because I usually bring on some seasonals at the end of Scary Farm to help us do strike. And, you know, if they express interest, I'll keep them on longer and see how it works out. And I would say 95% of my team have worked on Haunt. And then they get upset with me the next year when Haunt rolls around and say, oh, I'm going to go be a monster. No, you can't, because we have a lot of production work to do for Christmas. So, and they make the choice whether they want to be a monster or they want to do what they're doing and have a full-time job. Your choice.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out. We had a great time here. Hope you enjoyed all this talent up here. Thank you, guys. Jeff, Winston, Daniel, Gus. I'm Jeff Tucker. We'll see you in the fog, baby.